So today's video is all about bar graph. Today we are going to learn how do you actually write bar graph so that your answer can become much more presentable, and as a student, as you're appearing for your for your Ielts examination, academic examination, I would want you to score higher. So by this time I hope you're aware that there are multiple types of questions which I'll discuss in some other video, but today I'll be solely talking about graph, and this is level 1 of graph writing. Let me clarify this before we start. So again, you must have seen a number of questions, so I've taken a very basic question so that I can help you to differentiate, help you to learn the difference between the graphs, right? So I have taken a very simple graph which I'll show you. So before that, all I just want you to know is you need to master the technique of writing. You need to understand what you're supposed to present, how you're supposed to analyze the graphs. That is why you need to watch this video. Let's go ahead and see the question that we have for today. So today this question is all about the tourist that we have. So your x-axis in the graph will be representing a certain value, and then y-axis will represent different categories, which of course we'll see the next image is that only. But I just want to highlight one very important thing which majority of the students do miss by some chance. So that statement is which says the summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparison where relevant. So you will find this statement which is common throughout lot of questions. You will find it in the pie chart. You must have seen it in the line graph, but we are never as a student or as a candidate, we are never paying attention to what this statement stands for, which is why I've highlighted two most important words. First is main features and second is comparison. So this video is all about this only. We will learn what main features are for bar graph and how do you write them, how do you present them. Then comes the second half of the question or the video, which is all about the comparison that we are going to learn today. So next I will show you the graph. This is the graph that I've taken. Like I've already highlighted you, one axis will represent the number of hours, and the next axis shows us the categories, which is like Chinese tourist, American tourist, Turkish tourist, Brazilian tourists, right? So again, in these categories you have three different activities that they have been performing, right? So of course we'll start with the intro part, but I wouldn't be talking to you about that in detail because we have another video for that. So I'll just help you to highlight the intro part and how do you write the overall part in another video. But over here I'm just giving you a short review about that. So again, in introduction you will be mentioning the type of the graph, and one term I would want you to include is that comparison. So instead of writing the information, write the word comparison. Perfect. Next comes the overall. Again, there are a lot of questions which are related to this. Where do we write overall and what do we write in it? So first question is, where do you write it? You can write it in the second after introduction or it in the end. It just doesn't matter. All you need to do is you have to write it. What do you write in the overall when it comes to the bar graph? So I would suggest mention the maximum and the minimum, because it's one of the best contrasts that we have, right? So that is your intro and overall. So now when we come to this question, the first and foremost thing that I would want you to write is I would want you to learn is how do you analyze the graph. So it's very important, because when you say main features, main feature is something that is very striking, and as a data you can analyze and you can very easily play with it. Here I would quote 3 examples for main features along with the linkers that I always give my students to use, and you will also find this, yes, it means something, right? So let us start from there. So for main features, let us think that something that is equal or same is main feature. Second case is where something is half of something. Third case is where something is double of something. Now let us see the graph. Let us see the graph. I'll use this pen to highlight. So something that is similar. So now if you check American tourist, in case of American tourist and Turkish tourist, the time that they have spent on visiting places is same, right? So this is the first point that I would want you to note down, that the number of hours these two different category people from two different categories have spent is same, right? That's the first thing. Now let us analyze something that is half or double, like I just mentioned. So let us check this value. It is 8, this is 4. So it is half or double. You can write it either ways. I'm aware that what I'm saying, it is vice versa of that. So in your examination, there are chances that you would find one of them. So I'm just giving you a hint, but in this case we have something that goes, right? So let us say, let us check another category where we can write that something is half. So okay, let us check this one. Brazilian tourist, I'm putting cross over it. Brazilian Brazilian student spent around 2 hours. So let us check, do we have something? Yes, it is 1. So it can be half of it. So it goes, again I am repeating, you can either write it is double of, even if I reverse it, if I say the number of hours spent by Chinese tourist on visiting places was 1, and of course the number of hours spent by Brazilian tourist on visiting was 2, so which is double of that. So you can mention it either ways. I hope I made my point clear. So now let us move forward and see the statements that we have formed. This is the intro part and overall part. You can read, it's very simple, and by this time you all are aware. So I've just written it for you so that you find it easy to compile the answer, but my major focus is about the main features only. So now, like I promised, that I will give you some linkers that would help you to justify to the examiner, or maybe attract his attention that you know what main features are. So I've given you 3 very beautiful linkers. First one is interestingly, second one is particularly, third one is surprisingly. Now just check the way the statements have been formed. So the first statement is Turkish, interestingly, with comma, interestingly, Turkish tourist and American tourist spent same number of hours on visiting places. Now yes, it does make sense, right? Next is particularly, the number of hours spent by Chinese tourists on reading books constituted to 8 hours, and the time spent by Brazilian tourists was half of it. Like I just said, you can add a little bit twist to it so that it becomes much more interesting for the examiner to read, because I am aware otherwise you are writing statement that is very straightforward. So it is not helping us to score beyond 7 or 6.5, let us say, right? So this can be handled like this. Let us check the third statement, which is surprisingly, the Chinese tourist passed time at the beach for 3 hours. However, the hours spent by Brazilian tourist was double of it. So again, I have used different statements to justify what am I writing, what do I want to present. So I hope I have clarified my point. So when you are mentioning the main features, make sure you first analyze the graph and you find values that are double, half, maybe 4 times, maybe 2 times, maybe 10 times, something that is striking. And of course, same value you can easily understand, very easily you will be able to plot it, right? I hope this is clear. Let us move forward and see what do we have to offer in comparison. Okay. So again, there are 2 very important conjunctions that we use when we are mentioning the comparison. First one is whilst, second one is while, even you can use whereas, you can use as compared to, there are a lot of, but I would recommend just practice 2 or 3 so that becomes much more easier for us to write in the examination and we don't get confused. So when you're mentioning comparison, all you need to understand is comparison means that you are comparing 2 different things. I'm giving you a very simple example, you all will be able to relate. So when You talk about your siblings. Your parents come up to you and say your brother or your sister had scored, this much in 10th examination. So very simply they are comparing two different people, but for that same examination, say class 10th, right? So how will you form the statement? You will keep the year constant, you will keep the category constant, but not the people, right? So when your comparison means two different things. So as you can see, the statement is the time spent on the beach by American tourist was 4 hours, whilst the amount spent on the beach by Turkish tourist was 5 hours. So very simply, I've just written the values. I've just said that these people spend this many hours on a certain thing. Again, when you read the second sentence, it says the number of hours spent by American tourists on visiting places was 3, while the number of hours spent by Brazilian tourists on visiting places constituted to 2. So now I have again justified my point. I've taught you how to write main features, how to write comparison, right? I hope it is clear. Now it's your turn to write. I have given you a question. So all you can do is you can take the screenshots, you can click the pictures, and let us see. I'll help you out with this one also. I'll give you some hints. Try and analyze what the topic is all about first and see where you can plot the differences, right? Where you can plot something that is interesting. So again, I would recommend find something that is same, double, approximately half, twice, thrice, 4 times, 10 times, 5 times, right? And this is how you write your main features. For comparisons, just take two different categories. Just take two different categories and mention the value with the help of conjunctions such as while, whilst, or whereas. So that would come out to be a sentence which reflects comparison. So thank you for watching this video. That's it for this video. I hope it will be helpful for you to score much more better. All I need to know is that you need to write down the reviews if you found it helpful. Thank you so much.